the meeting to order. We can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks. Could Mr. Scott call the roll, please?
Sure. Mrs. Albright.
Here.
Mrs. Bell.
Mrs. Bell?
Yeah, here. Yeah, here.
Mrs. Godfrey.
Here.
Mrs. Leone.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mrs. Olson.
Here.
Mr. Scott here. Mr. Strobel.
Here.
Mrs. Thompson.
Here.
All present.
Okay. Procedures for public participation are should be on the board there. I know we don't have a lot of people here, and I know they also haven't changed. No, it's fine. And they're up there if anybody needs to know them. As far as announcements go, any agenda edits? There are no agenda edits. There will be an executive session following the meeting to discuss negotiations, personnel, litigation, and safety and security. Now it's time for the superintendent's report, Dr. Cooper.
Thank you, Madam President. First item, we indicated about a month ago that the administration would have a preliminary recommendation for the start of the 21-22 school year. And as far as instruction and learning is concerned for our students and families. And based on what we know now and where we're at with this pandemic, obviously that preliminary recommendation is for the return to in-person instruction. And obviously there may be circumstances for students that we don't know what their situation may end up being, where they would have to participate in a digital platform. So those options will still be available based on what their specific needs are of that student or family. And what we would ask is that they contact the building administration to set those up on a case-by-case basis. But our intent, for all intent and purposes, is to have our students back in person to the greatest extent possible. Next week, at the voting meeting, we too will have a recommendation for the board with regards to masking requisites for folks entering our buildings, attending and working in the buildings, or on district grounds. And that recommendation will mirror what is currently the most recent that had been articulated by the DOH, Pennsylvania Department of Health, indicating that the masking order remain effective until June 28th, or when 70% of adults in the Commonwealth are fully vaccinated, whichever comes first. So that recommendation next week will, unless something changes between now and then, will mirror what that is. However, the recommendation will also include the most current federal requirements related to masking on public transit and within our recommendations. At the voting meeting in July, there'll be a recommendation that'll be made to rescind the current health and safety plan and replace it with another requisite health and safety plan. And just as a reminder, we are required to develop a health and safety plan for the 21-22 school year due to its tie-in to the ESSER 3 funding, the ESSER 3 money, where the district is slated to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million, a little bit north of $3 million, and that third round of funding. So it's necessary for us to develop a health and safety plan. We don't anticipate it being to the extent, obviously, that it was this past school year, and will be a pretty significantly abbreviated version. And just my final comment, just wanted to share with the board that I did send notation out to the professional staff on Friday, thanking them for their commitment to our students and families over the past 15 months, and wish them a safe and healthy summer break with family and friends, but also shared with them a message via video that I had pre-recorded on our commitment moving forward to the Anytime, Anywhere learning process here. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cooper. All right, moving on to the regular agenda. Finance got big old laundry list, 17 items for up on the slate for next meeting. Almost everything in here is an annual renewal of a contract that we already have. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns for the business office or anybody else? Any public comment on finance? Okay, moving on to the budget. So this will be what we're going to be voting on next week. The budget for the year. The tax rate is still to be determined. Currently, does the administration, Ms. Haynes, does the administration have a recommendation as to what that tax millage be? And if the answer is no, that's fine. I was just asking.
I am leaving that up to the board with
Okay.
a qualifying remark that it's always good to do something, because those taxes will be lost if we don't do something.
Right.
I'm not saying all the way to be allowable, but I'm just saying something.
Okay, and as a chair of finance, I'm sure Mr. Miller has some thoughts at this point.
I do. Just want to point out that, I mean, if we didn't do anything, we would need to take a $2.5 million out of fund balance, leaving us with $324,000 left if we did nothing. If we went to the index, we would still have to take out $1.177 million out of fund balance, and would leave us with $1,735. So I'm going to suggest that we do something in between. My recommendation would be to go with 0.8 mils, which is 2.5%, which would take 1,678 out of fund balance and leave $1 million, a little over $1 million. All kinds of options in between on both ends.
So and I'm not saying that as when I ask this question, I'm not saying that this is what we should do, but the index millage increase would be what, 1 point something?
It would be 0.8.
Oh, I'm sorry, 0.8 would be.
It would be 2.5%.
Okay, okay, and your thought to be somewhere in the middle was to be where?
0.8. It's somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The index is 1.2.
1.2. Okay.
1.2634.
Okay. Anyone else have thoughts? This is our. I mean, we will have a chance to have a discussion as a board about it at the next meeting before we vote. But I'm opening it up so we can talk about it.
I'm just wondering what it is exactly that's put us so, like our budget's so much lower. Do we know?
The budget increase this year compared to last year. If you remember, we did do a debt restructure, so we were able to take like 2 point something million out of the budget for last year. So when you're looking year-to-year comparison, that $2 million is very happy.
So will that continue next year then too?
Yeah, that number was stabilized, and in order to stabilize it, we were actually able to kind of amortize that $2 million.
No, I believe what she's asking is there going to be an addition. So if there's if there's an increase from last year's budget to this year's budget caused by the fact that we had this other revenue from the debt restructuring last year. When we talk about next year's budget, will it be more even with the current
Right,
year?
it's gonna be.
That's what I thought you were asking, right?
But I'm gonna also preface that by saying, we have a lot of ESSER money coming in,
That is true.
so it does throw the budget off, so you kind of have to look at, yeah, the expenditure number is there, but we have to look at revenues too, to kind of balance it all out. You may go up in expenditures next year, but make sure we're looking at revenues to see that that $10 not come up in revenue.
So is that ESSER's in the budget?
It's in, my spending is in the budget, yeah. When I
Yeah.
project out, everything that I've spent, and I'm showing that for the 2021 as well as the 21-22, we have that money already in the budget.
And the ESSER's money, one thing about that is that it is not able to be applied to the general bottom line. It has to be applied to specific items in the bottom, but we're not spending more just to spend that ESSER's money. We're applying it to money that we were going to spend when we can.
So it could be worse next year.
Yeah.
The general increase is the increase in salaries and contract and other benefits and the increase in our inflation. And the 2.5% is actually below the increase in cost of living. This one is below the CPI projected. So
What does 0.8 in terms of total dollars equate to? In other words, what would the total revenue increase be at 0.8?
A little less than $1 million,
Less than a million?
right? Because right now, right now 1 mil is sitting at 1.1.
Yeah, it's like 1.1 balancing.
So 0.8 will be close to 870,000 maybe.
it would be nice to get Excel and things that
Yeah.
we could do that long. I was doing this at home and wrote the numbers down.
Yeah. Any other? To say, you know, I'm not ready to agree to a hard number, but I agree with Mr. Miller's. I agree with Ms. Haynes' assessment that having zero increases is not the best course of action because we do have increased spending year to year, and every opportunity that we don't bring that revenue that's coming in up, that's a year lost that we'll never get that revenue back. And I also agree with Mr. Miller's assessment that if a happy medium could be agreed upon, that's where I would want to be as well.
There's another side too, and that is from fiduciary responsibility. Our households, we don't continue to spend money that we don't have.
Correct.
But the area isn't growing. Sometimes you have to take a look at what we're providing. Not that I want to go less, I would love to give the kids more, but sometimes it's just not available. In fact, people out of their homes. You just can't do that. You can't keep going and going and going and going and going without regard to those types of things. And so when we look at little tiny savings here and there, yeah, the hard part is for children, and I get that. And I do care about this because a lot of really do. And I think what we've done for the school is amazing things that happen. Really have. But just because the index is up, the national index is up, our area is not growing. The same case our area is growing. We have to sit down and do the business thing, and that's just get the hard pen out for the line items and things to try and get ourselves in that savings area or try and bring revenue up, which we're doing. There's some things happening with that's the hard part. They're the hard decisions to make. And so, we just can't keep raising taxes forever. Just at one point or another, you run out. So people have to start moving in, you have to start attending meetings where you go into those board meetings in the county and in different areas, so you can start getting, and those things are happening. It's really those little decisions that we make where we can have savings matter. So.
And we try. We've in years past we've talked about balancing, that with those things that you said with, some of the things that we are doing that some of which cost money, to improve the education that we're bringing to students. Those are things that actually do bring more people here, you know. So that's always the balance, right? And we want to have a school. We want to have a school that people want to go to and people want to bring their kids to, you know. And so I agree, you know,
There's a lot
that
of great things
it's
about
it's a lot to balance for sure.
You just gotta keep that every time you sit down to do budgets, every time they sit down to do budgets, you've gotta keep that in mind. There's no revenue other than taxes. It's not
Right.
like you go back to the team and go, I need to produce another $1 million. There's no producers, you know, it's
And
don't
if we
give.
keep raising taxes, we won't have those businesses coming in because elections do go up.
Don't
So
give,
then
I
it's
get
just
every,
downward
always
cycle.
like to try to kind of narrative when we're making all these different decisions, that everyone matters. That's all.
Right. Any other? Go ahead. Anybody want to say something?
No, I
Oh,
really
okay.
think that. I mean, it's definitely a balancing act, and right, quality of education goes down, people are going free or not, and
We don't want that.
And if taxes get out of control, that's another reason people wouldn't want to be here. Yeah, and
That's one
it
thing
is a
that-
balance.
But the act is in place, and the interest is set where it's in line with inflation. And that's what we're looking to, anyway.
Right.
But you're right, we need to really look at that.
Yeah, we're at 87% now, salaries and benefits. I mean, there's really not a lot of places to have. So everything counts.
I don't know where, in the past, I have known where we were as far as our school district taxes. You know, like there was a time that I knew that we were like 7th out of 17 school districts. If you didn't look at Reading, because the way that they fund Reading is just significantly different than anywhere else.
We're still in the middle. I don't think
We're still somewhere. We're still pretty solidly in the middle. Yeah.
A lot of different factors.
Yeah. Anybody else have?
The only thing I'm gonna say is that, I mean, I think, is that over the years previous to probably all of us being on the board, that this board did not raise taxes, and we got left with the duty of every year having to increase. It makes us, I guess the public would look at us and maybe negatively, but if they had done that a decent, and I don't mean to take a shot at our previous boards, but followed just a decent pace to that, we wouldn't be every year at this point where we couldn't.
I mean, yeah.
Absolutely, we're playing catch up every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we could theoretically, if those 4 years had no increases, if they had small ones, we could still be at the same millage right now,
Could be.
but sitting with like an additional $2 or $3 million that we would have been able to spend in those years because they didn't increase taxes for 4 years.
Yeah, I'm not taking a shot. at it, but
You know?
That's a reality,
Yeah.
that's all.
It's true.
It's just a reality, and
And we didn't raise taxes last
We didn't
year
raise last year.
because we felt pretty strongly as a group
Yes.
that the community had enough on its plate dealing with COVID, and that we even though and we also felt that we could withstand it last year, and so I would find it'd be very hard for me to vote for 0 increase 2 years in a row.
We're still running,
When we're-
we're running a fund balance.
That's what I mean.
Anyway.
If we could run with the same budget that we had and still have $3 million in fund balance, that'd be a different story, but that's not where we would be. We would be like less than $500,000.
I mean, we have $1 million increase in just salaries every year, just professionals. So,
yeah, that was just my thought. That's all. And I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, let's say for the record too, we're all parents, we're all in this district, so we're being affected by whatever decision we come up with. And I think that's important for everyone to know.
We're taxpayers.
Yeah.
We're taxpayers, exactly, and, you
It's
know,
going to impact me.
but unfortunately, we got left a little bit, you know, we have to do some cleanup, and, you know, at board 4 years from now, I feel this differently, but it's what it is.
Yeah. Anybody else? I mean, I know we're not we're not settling anything, and we'll continue this conversation with more concrete numbers next week. But does anybody else have anything to add right now? Okay, do we have any public comment on finance budget items? Okay, moving on to programs. The ASTI non-Title I school plan, that just has to be renewed every year, correct, Mr. Hurley?
That's correct.
Okay. Any comments, questions for Mr. Hurley or anybody else in administration on that? Any public comment on programs? Okay, moving on to personnel. There's 4 folks here. Oh no, there's 3 folks that will be retiring this year. I don't know. I might say something again at the next meeting. I do not know Ms. Held, but I do know Ms. Nefok and Mr. Sherman. My kids had both of them, and they've served this school district for a really long time, and they really will be missed. If anybody else knows about Ms. Held and wants to give her kudos as well, I'm sure that she will be missed as well, but I don't know her personally. But Mr. Sherman, he is so, both of them actually are really good at finding they're both English teachers, and they're really good at finding the things that your kid cares about and finding a way to get them reading and writing creatively about those things, and got some work out of my kids that I never thought I'd
Yeah,
see.
Mr. Sherman is the only reason that one of my children came to school.
Yeah, so
Only reason.
they're going to be missed. And then there's leaves, 1 leave, and several appointments for next year. Any comments, questions from the board on any of those? Any comments or questions, public comment on personnel items? Moving on to presentations by board members. Mr. Scott, Secretary's Correspondence.
So I don't have anything officially to present, but I thought it would be really important, and I guess this is the best time to do it, that we speak about us being parents and everything else here. We have 4 seniors graduating last Friday from board members. So I just wanted to kind of bring up their names and just recognize them. First is Madison Albright, who had a dual degree from RAC, associate degree, and of course graduated here from Daniel Boone High School. And as I understand, she is the first in the state, possibly more, but first in the state to have that degree.
On Earth, I think.
Well, I'm sorry, what
The first on Earth.
first on Earth. Preston, you didn't give me. Well, anyway, congratulations to Madison. That's amazing. Moving on, of course, our president's daughter, Emily Olson, graduated last Friday. We also like to recognize her. Congratulations. And then we have Grace Miller, son of Steve here, also graduating last Friday. So maybe more applause. There we go. Thank you, Ms. Albright.
You're welcome.
And then, and last but not least, Colton. Is it Colton? Strobel, son of Kevin here, also graduating last Friday from and going to Penn State. I don't know where everyone else is going, but I have a little bit of allegiance to Penn State. So congratulations to all 4 of you. That's really amazing.
Grace is going to one of your rivals.
That's my...
Grace is going to Pittsburgh.
Where's she?
Okay.
Oh, okay, moving on. Congratulations. That's awesome. All right. We'll leave that alone. That didn't go well.
Yeah, Maddie's going to Albernia, and Emily's going to Pratt School of Design.
That's awesome. And congratulations to all four of you. You should all be very proud. Person on earth. Wow. Wait till that gets the minutes.
Thank you for that, Mr. Scott. You know, it was a good day. It was kind of a nail biter until we got to the end of the day and the rain stopped. But it was nice to see everyone celebrating our kids' achievements. To see so many people in the stands. It was really great. So I was really happy to see that after so many months of very limited numbers of people at events. So, Mr. Miller, the BCIU report.
Yes, I didn't attend the meeting on May 20th, but it looks like it was mostly procedural, nothing of real interest for us. You will see, either seen in the news or will be in the news, there's been 2 incidents with bus drivers at BCIU. So we don't get services from there, but Copenhagen and more recently in Reading, there were incidents with one with a driver, one with an aide, and there's criminal charges being brought.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the BCTC board report from Ms. Thompson.
We just met last week, May 26th, and approved the operating budget for 21-22 school year. They gave us a tour of the houses students helped.
For the
Well, they did a slideshow, but it's a great program, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Cool. I think it's about time we had another board meeting over there where they serve us dinner. We haven't done that in a while.
They served us pizza.
No, we're talking like
That was really
Dinner.
good. That was really good.
course meal.
They did a
Oh, yeah,
spread.
it's really good. No, it's
We gotta wait until they come back to school. But
Yeah.
That was a good meal. That was a fun night.
All right. So legislative report, Mr. Strobel.
They didn't have a meeting in May, so
Okay.
next month we expect to work with the non-list. Maybe one before that, but next
Next.
one I have my.
Yeah, won't. Yeah, the next meeting won't be till next school year.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other board reports? Okay. Any public comment on the board's reports? Okay. Moving on to monthly head count. Hopefully, those numbers will look a lot different once we start school again. Any comments, questions for administration on that? Any public comment on the monthly head count? Okay, moving on to curriculum and instruction meeting report from May 24th.
Yes, May 24th, we had Angela Owens talking about the instructional coaches, and there's 6 for the entire district. One in each building, one in special ed, one in instructional technology. We discussed online resources available to teachers. We talked about bringing algebra 2 to 8th grade. Preston talked about one school, one book weekly, which includes weekly virtual comprehension questions. And talked about second place in STEM in the state. Girls competition. Those are girls, right?
Yes.
Yes. Preston, did I miss anything?
Just Keystone and the course assessment pilot will be next year as well.
Okay.
We have tie those in there for actually the algebra, biology, and lit at the high school. I think that's it. You got it?
Yeah.
And am I seeing this right? No curriculum meeting in June, so we won't have one until August? Is that what it's-
No, we have next week.
Okay, so we do have,
14th.
we'll have one the 14th, and then we'll skip a month. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. The important stuff. Any questions for Mr. McKnight or Ms. Albright from the board? Any public comment on curriculum instruction? Moving on to extracurricular, Mr. Miller.
Yes, we met earlier this evening and start off with a recap of the spring season, which ended today with the girls living in the softball state playoffs. Discussed a very successful year at Danny Boone, especially we had 2 state champions, swimming and bowling, and other very successful competitors, and it was a very good year given circumstances. Numbers were down somewhat in some of the programs, but early look at fall, summer, it seems like it's picking up and things are looking better. There's still work to do, but we see improvements. The turf is being replaced. The turf replacement was supposed to start today. Apparently, they wanted to start it on Saturday, and obviously we had graduation concerns, so we wanted to push it off until today. They squeezed another job, and so it's starting later this week. The turf will be replaced. On the vans, we were looking to replace our vans, our coaches' vans. They're worn and they will need to be replaced. Apparently, with COVID, there's a shortage of vehicles, and that's been delayed. The period, what are we looking at, 8, 9 months?
We're looking at several months, about 4 to 5 months before the bid of that take that stock.
4 to 5 months, okay. And I guess they had asked when they use vehicles, and they couldn't be found. It's my understanding that's even worse the market. So we're going to inspect the current vans and try to make sure we keep them running until the new ones get here. The last thing, Unified Sports, we start off track and looking to expand the program. Bocce, we're looking to get support for a Bocce Unified Sports program in the winter. Something to look forward to.
And I believe that they mentioned that a lot of the funding would be able to be coming from Special Olympics.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes, so that's really the big funding. If they get the funding from Special Olympics, the only cost would be transportation.
Right. Okay. And this extracurricular will meet in August. No meeting in July.
No meeting in July.
Right. So any comments, questions for Mr. Miller about extracurricular from the board? Any public comment? Okay, moving on to facilities transportation. Mr. Sherwell wasn't able to be there, so I wrote notes for what we discussed. Summer cleaning is underway. They've moved, since the buildings are empty, they've moved from a day shift and an evening shift to having 2 staggered day shifts for cleaning. They've started at the intermediate center because they want to finish up before Summer Connections starts. And there still is some stuff happening on the first floor of the high school. We have scheduled school senior pictures. So they started in this building on the second floor for cleaning. Mr. Fairstaff hoped that by the middle of July that he'd be fixed 50% done with everything for summer cleaning schedule. It's expected to be a little bit more of a traditional summer cleaning schedule than this current year. He's got inspections scheduled for the fire system. He's got forklift training scheduled, safety training. So he's got his plate full and we'll talk about the stadium situation later. So that's also happening this summer. So the transition house is the building right next to so when you drive into the school from Chestnut Street, you pass by our light up signboard and then you go into the driveway. The next house after that is the transition house. We own that. And currently we rent it to the BCIU. And the ramp that leads into the building is so bad, it's to the point where it's not ADA compliant anymore. It's a wood ramp, and it has raised nails that are impediments to travel with a wheelchair. There is slip, trip, and fall. The railing almost isn't attached anymore, so it needs to be replaced. I can't hear you.
Our leases are not triple net. When we lease the BCIU?
What?
Triple net, that means something breaks.
They're leasing from us, right?
They're leasing from us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not triple net lease.
You mean where?
I've never, again, I'm sure schools work differently, but I've never seen a lease, like when we lease a building, it's triple net. I got to fix it, that's a rent.
That's not that
Not the case.
part. I mean, it would be the same type of situation, because the district-owned property, the same type of situation as to what we end up with Birchboro Elementary Center, where we had to fix the fire suppression system, or if anything happens over there, if we're releasing that to those places that release them from us, we still had to take care of repairs.
It was just a question, I just have to.
So-
Non-triple net leases are presented.
So, Mr. Biggerstaff presented to us, so he initially went and got a quote for replacing the wooden ramp to the front door. And if anybody knows anything about the current situation with lumber, he got a quote for replacing a wooden ramp of about $25,000. And so he decided to try to think about it a little differently. He thought there is a back door, so he thought about what if we did a paved ramp to the back door. He got two quotes for that. One significantly higher than the other. One of them is the lowest one right now is about $23,000 from Folk Paving. The committee voted to endorse approaching the repairs that need to be made by doing a paved asphalt solution instead of a wood solution. But he is going to get one more quote before, and we'll talk about it at the next meeting, which one we're going to approve.
So what ADA compliant then?
It will be, yeah. And so that's the intent. So, but he had one quote for a wood and two for a paved solution, but we asked him to please just get a third for a paved solution, because we were endorsing his idea was that a wood solution in 10 years we could be in the same position of having to replace it, but we with maintenance and resurfacing and maintenance and sealing, we should be able to keep the asphalt one good and in working order for like 20-25 years. Okay, transition house. IC roof and wall. Simon Roofing Products, they've talked to them about the roof at the Intermediate Center, which is leaking in a lot of places in the part that covers the cafeteria and the gym. Is that correct? The flat part of the roof?
The flat part of the roof, I'm not sure the exact area.
Okay, so the flat part of the roof is leaking constantly, and of course we had a lot of rain last couple weeks, and so Simon Roofing is suggesting that instead of them putting a whole new roof on that and getting a 20-year guarantee on the roof, that they can strip that top layer off and just put a top layer on the roof and give us a 15-year guarantee on it at half the cost. And it's not, the quote is, it's not in stone yet, so he's still working toward it. He just wanted to make sure that we felt that the approach was appropriate, and I think we do. There's some damage to the walls over there that we are still waiting for Boyer's Engineering, I guess, to do a core sample to figure out where we are with that. He wanted to let us know he was working on it. What else? Stadium work. So we had talked a while ago about the area at the back, when you're on the football field and you're facing the softball field, there is a raised, I don't know, I guess it's a brick area that curves around, and right now it says Dania Boone Area High School in these metal letters, half of which are only partially attached to the wall at this point. And he had been concerned about it for a while because it does look pretty bad. So he had suggested that what could be done is we could remove the letters, because those letters, although they're nice, they require a lot more upkeep. People step on them all the time to get over that partition. He had suggested what he'd like to do is take the letters off and paint that piece of brickwork, and then we could put a larger piece of artwork. We don't know what it would look like yet. We haven't even gotten that far, but like with, our Dania Boone emblem, or with blazers or whatever. We haven't talked about what it would look like, but that he thinks that would be something that would be easier to maintain. And even if we did have to replace it because it got weathered, just replacing it is just paint. And so that was, that's where they're going to go forward with over the summer. But we don't know what it'll look like yet. Okay, and then one last thing was for BEC. So BEC settlement is ready to go ahead on the 15th, which is the day after we meet next. The fire system work that they requested us to do is complete, and the second floor rear window that had been vandalized is fixed. So those were the last two things that were holding up setting a date for settlement. The 14th, Mr. Biggerstaff has a list of things he wants to do. So he's going to remove the exterior locks and the badge reader that belong to us. Halter is going to cut the grass the last time on the 9th, which is 2 days from now. He's going to hand over the keys and the maintenance records on the 15th. We do have some time frame after they take over the building where for a certain prescribed amount of hours that's written up in the bill of sale that we will the contract of sale that we will make our people available to talk them through the different systems in the building and all that stuff for a certain amount of hours. And that is it. And this is, oh yeah, I got two more things in a second. And that is the point where I would like to say that I believe that, is there going to be a finance committee meeting next week?
Yes, there's going to be a finance committee meeting.
This is the point where I think that I would like to recommend that the finance committee talk about where we're going to allocate the money for the building, to make a recommendation of where that'll go. Because that is something we know that that's the board's decision to be made, but we haven't talked about that. And then we got an annual renewal of our inspection of our bleacher systems for all the buildings for $2,819. Same company that did it last year. That's just a renewal of a contract that Mr. Biggerstaff requested that we approve out of committee, which we did. And one more thing, we are going to add to the finance added consent for next month, for next week, that the chillers at the high school, it's always the chillers, the annex chillers aren't, there are the two of them, the isolation valves are causing, when the two chillers are working in tandem, they are not working in tandem well because the isolation valves are freezing in one position or another to block the other one so the load isn't balancing correctly. Does that sound something like accurate?
Sounds like it.
Okay. And unfortunately, we got to go with train. Nothing's wrong with train, but there is no getting a lower bid because they're who has to do the work, and it's $8,114, and that also we approved out of committee. I'm sorry that was so long. Any questions for me or for Mr. Hurley on facilities? And there is no meeting until August on that. Any public comment on facilities? Okay, moving on to finance.
Okay, Finance Committee, we had a budget workshop early May, and so we reviewed the numbers and the numbers I talked about earlier. It's basically where we are and stuff coming out of the workshop. As far as the Finance Committee meeting, I was not able to attend that May 24th, so I don't know if you have any notes on that.
There was only one item, I think. Ms. Haynes? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have a number, sorry, I don't remember what it was.
And I apologize. There was only one item, and so let me look.
Yeah, most of the Finance Committee are dominated by budget.
Okay.
We'll be voting on.
I'm sorry.
I do have a comment on the, for EDC money, I'm not the finance committee. The buildings have been neglected previously. There's a lot of repairs opportunities for us as we go forward. There may be an opportunity to earmark that money to help offset that expense and try and get things back up to where they were in the past. There's a lot of things that we just kind of, as time went on, I'm not saying that we do it now, I'm saying when the finance committee meets, I'm not going to be there, so I just wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I apologize. Finance committee meeting from the 24th of May. We had a breakdown of the different COVID grants that were available to us. A constant reminder that while some of them don't have deadlines until 2023 or 2022, that it is still one-time money, even though we have several years in some cases to spend it.
And then next week's agenda, I will have a complete finance committee.
Right.
Will have it available because we need to make it public, how we're spending those funds.
Right.
So we'll have a one-pager, just so everybody can understand that right now. And give it over .verify and .sign.
Yeah, that was the other thing, .verify versus DocuSign. And the DocuSign,
Yeah,
DocuSign is what is
on the agenda.
it's on this agenda, because that was the recommendation.
Consortium with the BCID.
And seriously, those were the only two things.
That was it.
Okay. And then we'll have a meeting on finance, we'll have a finance meeting next week?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any comments, questions on finance for Mr. Miller or Ms. Haynes? Any comments from the board? Any public comments for the board? Okay, moving on to policy. I don't think there was a meeting.
No, there was none.
Okay.
So I have nothing to report other than our next meeting is on August 9th. Rob, if there's anything I need to say at this point, is there anything?
No, that's our next meeting schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a couple things that will be on the agenda under first and second reading, but they're all just updates to match up with current law. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, technology.
We had a meeting on May 24th, really a kind of a wrap-up meeting. There's a full PowerPoint presentation that Scott will make available to you, possibly give you all the information. That way, there's a lot of information. It was good information. I recommend you take a look at it, ask them for it. It's wonderful information. It does a lot of things. We're talking candidly the other day about where we are technology-wise. As compared to where we were 6 years ago, where we are now, it's just amazing what has occurred in our school and how other schools, we were always behind. Now other schools are looking at us and saying, how did you do that? How did you guys get to where you are? And it's just an amazing power in the back for everybody that's involved in it, not us, but all those that were good thing that I think we should take a look at. Don't take a look at it. You want to expand on that at all? Or?
You know, one of the things that Mr. Matz has shared is, you know, in particular over the course of the past year, he's had a lot of visits from other tech departments and other schools because of some of the things and what we're providing for our students and families in the form of getting a device in every student's hands, K-12, and you know, this is through the support of the board, and you're all resourcing that appropriately to also the utilization of what we call our Logitech devices or our cards this year. Folks have been reaching out and taking a look at those resources, how we've integrated that in our learning models. So, that, you know, that's a testament to the board support. It's a testament to the folks all across the organization, from administration to our professional staff to support staff, and the programming that's utilized or taking place utilizes devices. So folks are actually coming to see us now, which is a good thing. It's a positive thing.
That's a great thing. Student information system, we gave you all an update on that, where we are with that. Nothing different than before. Internet service providers are pretty much cut over to complete now. It's training on frontline crew, higher notification about those people that are involved with using that piece. And that pretty much got us up there with being a meeting. So.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the board for Mr. Strobel? Any public comment on technology? And I do apologize, I missed public comment on policy. Anybody have any public comment on anything we discussed under policy review? Sorry about that. Okay, hearing none. Old business, got the minutes. Any comments, concerns on the minutes from the 24th? Any public comment? New business. I see none. Anybody else have new business? Any public comment on the lack of new business? Public presentations on any issue? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
And Ms. Leone, second. And we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Oh, if you came in late, if, just for completeness of the minutes, if you could just sign your name on the thing on the back. Able. That's all it's able. Just so when Ms. McNeely puts the minutes together, she knows who's here. Thank you.